Gourmet mushroom cultivation, growing oyster, lion's mane, or shiitake mushrooms indoors or in specialized grow tents. Mushrooms are a fascinating and rewarding crop to cultivate indoors, offering a fresh supply of gourmet varieties like oyster, lion's mane, and shiitake. The process, while requiring attention to detail, can be broken down into several manageable steps, largely following the natural life cycle of the fungi. Step 1. Acquiring or making mushroom spawn. The first step is securing mushroom spawn, which is essentially a substrate like grain, sawdust, or plugs that has been fully colonized with the mushroom's mycelium, the vegetative part often described as the fungal root network. Natish, for beginners. The easiest route is to purchase pre-colonized spawn from a reputable supplier. This bypasses the most challenging and contamination-prone step of starting from spores or liquid culture. For experienced growers, you can create your own spawn by inoculating sterilized grain like rye or millet with a spore syringe or liquid culture. This must be done in a highly sterile environment to prevent contamination by mold or bacteria. Step 2. Preparing and pasteurizing, sterilizing the substrate. Mushrooms grow on a nutrient-rich material called a substrate. The ideal substrate varies slightly by mushroom type. Oyster mushrooms thrive on agricultural byproducts like straw, coffee grounds, or hardwood sawdust. Lion's mane and shiitake prefer hardwood sawdust, often supplemented with bran for extra nutrients. Preparation is crucial because the substrate must be treated to eliminate competing organisms while leaving nutrients available for the mushroom mycelium. Pasteurization. This is typically used for softer substrates like straw or coffee grounds. It involves heating the substrate to around 140 degrees to 170 degrees for several hours. This kills most contaminants, but leaves some beneficial microbes. Sterilization. This is required for more nutritious substrates like sawdust blocks. It involves heating the substrate at higher temperatures and pressure, usually in a pressure cooker or autoclave, to kill virtually all competing organisms. After treatment, the substrate must be cooled down before the next step. Step 3. Inoculation, mixing spawn with substrate. Inoculation is the process of introducing the mushroom spawn into the bulk substrate. This is where the mycelium will grow and colonize its food source. The cooled substrate is mixed thoroughly with the spawn in a clean environment to ensure an even distribution. The ratio of spawn to substrate affects the colonization speed. A higher spawn ratio will colonize faster. A common ratio might be 5 to 10% spawn by weight of the dry substrate. The inoculated substrate is then placed into containers suitable for growth, such as specialized mushroom grow bags with filter patches for air exchange, buckets with drilled holes common for oyster mushrooms, or plastic tubs. Maintain a high level of cleanliness during this step to avoid introducing contaminants. Step 4. Incubation, mycelial colonization. Conditions. The inoculated bags or containers are placed in a dark, warm, and clean area. The ideal temperature range varies, but generally falls between 70 degrees to 80 degrees, 21 degrees to 27 degrees. What to look for? Over a period of 2 to 4 weeks, it can take longer for shiitake, you will observe a white fuzzy network, the mycelium, spreading throughout the substrate. The goal is 100% colonization, where the entire block is solid white, indicating the mycelium has outcompeted any potential contaminants. Step 5. Initiation of fruiting. Pinning. Once the substrate is fully colonized, the mycelium is ready to produce mushrooms or fruiting bodies. This is typically triggered by a combination of environmental changes designed to mimic the conditions a mushroom would encounter in nature to signal its time to fruit. Triggering factors: lowering temperature, dropping the temperature, concentration. By introducing fresh air signals the mycelium to form primordia, tiny mushroom beginnings or pins. Introducing light, ambient light, not direct sunlight, is needed to orient the mushrooms. Thermal or cold shock. Shiitake. Some varieties, particularly Shiitake, benefit from a brief cold shock, e.g., we get soaking the block in cold water or putting it in a fridge for 24 hours. Preparation for bags, you typically create small slits or holes on the sides, or remove the block entirely and place it in the fruiting chamber. Step 6, fruiting and environmental control. The fruiting stage requires precise environmental control to ensure the small pins develop into large, healthy mushrooms. This is often done in a specialized grow tent or a simple fruiting chamber, often called a shotgun fruiting chamber, or SFC for small-scale growing. Humidity, this is the most critical factor. Mushrooms are over 90% water and need extremely high relative humidity, typically 85% to 95%, to prevent them from drying out. This is often achieved with a humidifier or by misting the chamber walls multiple times a day. Fresh air exchange, FAE. Consistent fresh air is vital. Too much CO2 will result in small, spindly, or abnormally shaped mushrooms, a common issue with oyster mushrooms leading to antlers. Air needs to be replaced several times per hour. Temperature, maintain the lower temperature established in the pinning phase, which is generally cooler than the incubation phase, varying by species, but often between 55 degrees to 65 degrees, under 13 degrees to 18 degrees. The pins will swell and grow rapidly, sometimes doubling in size daily. Step 7, harvesting and subsequent flushes. Harvesting occurs when the mushrooms reach maturity, but before they begin dropping spores heavily. Oyster mushrooms harvest when the caps start to flatten out before the edges curl up. Lion's mane. Harvest when the spines are well defined and still white before they turn pink-brown. Shiitake. Harvest when the caps are partially open but the edges are still rolled inward. Harvesting technique, gently twist the cluster or single mushroom off the block, leaving minimal debris. Subsequent flushes. After harvesting the first flush, and the crop, you can often get several more. Oyster and lion's mane. Give the block a rest for about a week, rehydrate it by soaking it in water overnight, and then return it to the fruiting chamber for the next flush. Shiitake requires a more pronounced cold shock soak before it will produce a second flush. The total yield will decrease with each subsequent flush until the block is exhausted. Step 8, post-harvest, once the block stops producing, usually after 2 to 4 flushes, it is considered spent. Disposal, spent mushroom blocks are an excellent source of nutrients for your garden or compost pile. They break down readily, improving soil structure and fertility. This step-by-step process allows you to successfully grow gourmet mushrooms indoors, giving you control over the environment and a fresh supply of these culinary delights. For a visual guide on setting up a basic indoor grow, you might find this video helpful. Beginners start here with indoor mushroom growing overview. This video provides a good overview of the initial stages of indoor mushroom growing.